David, good morning.
Good morning, Al. How are you? Did you
I'm
get some
doing
sleep?
very well. I got some sleep. Yeah, I'm doing my artificial jet lag. I'm just it's morning to me. At least that's what I'm telling myself. It's not dark outside. It's actually the sun's coming up. Got my coffee. Good morning. How about you? How you doing?
Well, the sun has come out today in the UK, albeit poking its way through the clouds. So yeah, I'm fine. Unlike usually when we're doing a conference together, I didn't fall asleep at dinner last night. So I'm raring to go.
Well, we got another wonderful day ahead. I have to say, again, that God, I feel so blessed and fortunate to be working with you to facilitate these fantastic contributors to the people analytics discipline. I mean, yesterday we had Thomas Rasmussen and Sally Smith from NAB, and if we went all down the line, we'd be go through the next 20 minutes before the next session. But what are your reflections from yesterday?
Well, it's funny actually. Over dinner last night, I was reflecting to Sarah, my wife, about some of the talks, and really started talking about Thomas Tremoro Pre-Music's one around leadership. And it so happened that in the background, the Channel 4 news was on, and Malcolm Gladwell popped up. He was being interviewed by Jon Snow
Hmm.
on UK TV, and I really like Malcolm Gladwell. I think he's fantastic, very clever man, and always got great
Absolutely.
opinions. So Sarah and I paused our conversation and we listened. And he was reflecting on previous crises and talking about the importance of leadership. And he opined that in World War II the Allies were quite fortunate that they had Roosevelt on one side of the pond and Churchill on the other. And then we said that he said we're not quite so fortunate today, which did make me laugh. We've got obviously someone advocating the ingestion of bleach as a potential cure, and we've got on the other side, on my side of the pond, a few weeks ago, the complacency I think was quite high. I think between the UK government, and I am a bit biased, but I must admit, so I do apologise for those of you that disagree with me. Um, but Johnson was talking about how he was going around shaking hands with everyone, and lo and behold, he got coronavirus. So yeah, it does seem to be, though, when you look at it and try to do some amateur psychology analysis, that the leaders that kind of demonstrate narcissism seem to be the ones that aren't doing as well in this, and the ones that display competence, empathy, transparency seem to be the ones, and using data, as Thomas was saying, seem to be the ones that appear to be performing better and certainly getting the highest approval rating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's totally in play because that, to Thomas's point yesterday, is that that's the model of leadership that's most prominent in our collective consciousness right now. And whether we want to or not, we are developing opinions. We're developing ideas on how we're going to move forward from that narrative that's coming out. So I don't have to say that drinking bleach is not a good idea. Some people have actually done it here and gotten sick. And some people passed away from using the chloroquine, and I mumbled it, and I'm happy I did because I do not want it. I do not want it to take it unless I have rheumatoid arthritis or some reason to take it, because the data indicates that that is the appropriate purpose. So, what we're talking about over this whole conference, and certainly today, is this idea of evidence based leadership or evidence based decision making. So, I certainly celebrate that you brought that to the fore because everybody yesterday talked about not only the need to create data, and insights quickly, but having an open mind to let the data speak for itself. So in turn, appropriate action can be taken. So I'm excited for today. I mean, we got another stellar lineup. What stands out for you coming up today?
Well, obviously you're first, so that's a pretty good start to the day. Um,
So the strategy is go slow and then we'll build up.
And actually, we've got great speakers throughout the day. Some of them I know quite well. Patrick Coulam from ABN AMRO. I know they're doing some really groundbreaking work around the whole employee experience piece. We got Madhura Chakrabarti from Syngenta. Later, obviously Madhura, in a previous role at Burson by Deloitte, authored that landmark study on people analytics. I think it's back in 2017 now, which is quite frightening. That's nearly 3 years ago. And then obviously Stefan Riesenbeck from Bosch. They're doing some fascinating work around building technologies to support the whole skills for the future conversation they're having at Bosch. And then we wrap up the day with Josh, with the big reset. So, an article that's, deservedly got a lot of attention and recognition, I think, and, kind of pulled together quite a lot of themes I think that a lot of us have been talking about for a while. But it's Josh has an ability to do, pulling it together in a nice cohesive narrative that, makes it even more compelling than it would be if we looked at the individual components.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sets the stage for what I'm going to be talking about this morning is the big reset for people analytics, taking off what Josh has initiated with that framing around reset, because I personally believe it's very appropriate. If you would, if we can bring up the slides, because what I want to do is orient people to the conference hub, as well as some other resources that we have. So if you joined yesterday, you're probably familiar with the fact that we're live streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, and our conference hub at PAFOW.net. So if you go there, you'll be directed to the page that you see here. And from here, you'll go over to the hub where you see the video. And below, you can engage with us in discussion via Slido. The Slido code is 20EUR. So I'm going to leave that up for a second if you want to scan that with your phone. And it's really meant for you to question the speakers. So you can get in there, ask at your leisure, and we'll do our best to field your questions. Even if we don't, we're going to document those, get those back to the speaker, and do our best to make sure that they get answered via the conference app. The conference app is where we have our virtual expo hall. So our sponsors here all have virtual booths within the expo hall. Well, that might seem like a cute thing. It's actually shaping up quite well. So if you go to the conference hub, you'll see this matrix in effect of all these great companies. You click through and you'll go to a virtual booth where they have a bunch of digital content, everything from videos, podcasts, PDFs. You can ask questions in some cases. You can see upcoming events. There's COVID resources. There's a whole host of assets that you'll be able to visit, not only during the event itself, but should you join the PAFOW community on an ongoing basis. So honored that these funding partners have contributed in making this event possible. And again, to emphasize, this would not be possible without them. We are going to do this event at the QE2 this week. Obviously, we're not there. We're actually going to be there this morning, David. Obviously, it's a bit different, but they toggled and enabled this to happen. So I appreciate them. So if we could bring David back on, we got a few more things to talk about before I launch in. And David, this is really around the sensitivity that we're all dealing with the global health crisis. Yesterday, unbeknownst to me, and thank you all who my phone just started blowing up because at 11 a.m. yesterday, there was a minute of silence for the people who had lost their lives to COVID-19, and people are suffering, and we want to acknowledge that. And I know there in the UK, it's been especially hard hit. So, David, what's going on for you with what's happening not only in the UK, in Europe, but around the world with COVID-19?
Yeah, and the minute silence in the UK yesterday was actually specifically for the NHS workers that have lost their lives during the pandemic. And I think probably one of the best assets that the UK has is its NHS, and I think that's really starting to show through this crisis, and perhaps it also shows that basic services need to be invested in. But whether it's NHS, whether it's education, around the world, I think it showed the importance of that. in terms of I think yesterday, the US passed the million mark on COVID-19 cases from the
That's
Johns
right.
Hopkins resource online, and we know that not every case is being counted because it's dependent on tests, I think, as Thomas said. So it's very hard to compare countries, obviously, because different countries are counting differently. Belgium, for example, has been very good at counting all cases of COVID-19. They're doing widespread testing. They're counting fatalities both in their health service and also in care homes. So Belgium, which is a relatively small country in comparison to some of the others, appears to have more cases and more deaths, but it's actually because they're counting better. So I think that's a nice lesson for us when it comes to people analytics as well. It's all very well bringing data together, but you need to make sure that you're bringing the right data together, and that data has been validated. And if you're going to make decisions on that data, make sure that you've got the right data, but it's also accurate enough that you're going to get insights that actually are relevant. I think that's a good lesson for us looking at that.
It's a fantastic lesson, and it's actually one of the 7 points that I'll be discussing in the next session. And it's something that's worth emphasizing as we get ready to start formally here this morning, is that as we evolve in our discipline, we're going to have a level of creativity and awareness that formerly we didn't. And these 3 days are really about just that: is, what are the emerging leading practices? And I emphasize emerging because what was a leading practice a year ago might not be applicable given what's happening, right now. So this forum over the next 3 days or 2 days, we already got one in the bag, is really about learning quickly. So like we're asking individuals to do in organizations and society at large, we're adapting, we're learning, we're adjusting, we're creating appropriate responses to get where we want or need to go. And as a discipline, we hope to be doing the same through our efforts through this conference. So if you enjoy it, please let us know, engage in the community. There's also the option to become a PAFOW supporter. So for $99 US per year, and there's you can transact internationally, we can capture VAT and all that. So that for less than $10 a month, you're actually supporting the production of this type of content, making a lot of it for free, some of it at a little modest price point, because we need to support programs like this. So yeah, that's what we're about. We've got to find the appropriate learnings and apply them where we are. So getting ready to go.
Well, we're looking forward. I'm looking forward to it. I've had a little sneak peek at the sides, and I didn't mean to actually go through one of the 7 steps.
Oh,
Lessons.
no. There's more to talk about on that, certainly. So no shame there. By the way, I'm going to reach over and make sure I get my coffee here before we go start. So any closing comments before I jump on and start in, and then we can get into a Q&A about some of the specifics of what I share and what you believe is happening in the people analytics community, because I know based on our previous discussions, some of it's going to ring true for you and also inspire some, I think, new discussions that we had formerly had.
Yeah, I think as Stacia and Priyanka highlighted yesterday, I think there is the vendor community, the partners, a lot of them are partners in this conference, are doing a lot to step up and offering free resources, free online, free crisis management calls on open forums and stuff like that. Because there's always a thirst for learning in our community, but I think that thirst is even higher during the current crisis, because I suspect and I know that the people analytics teams are having to answer questions and from executives and the workforce, frankly, that they've not had to answer necessarily before, and probably have to answer them at a speed that they haven't necessarily had to answer them before as well. So there's lots of great resources out there. I know. I mean, we've got Josh on later. I think one of the other people to highlight is Dave Ulrich, who's writing at least one really prescient, thought-provoking article every 2 weeks on his LinkedIn profile about the crisis and the various stages of that. I was just reading his latest one this morning, actually, so I definitely recommend checking that out. One thing I've been doing, one of the things I do is curate articles, and I've been doing that. I do need to update it. I was going through the latest draft this morning, hopefully get that out towards the end of the week. Just collecting resources together that hopefully help HR and people analytics professionals, just by highlighting some of the work that either people are doing or some of the great research that's coming out of the likes of BCG and McKinsey, just to provide a snippet really of resources that people can actually access to understand more about how people data can help support this crisis. So you can find that on my LinkedIn or on the myhrfuture.com blog. And it's been updated. I had been updated every week. I'm about 10 days behind updating it at the moment. But I will be doing so.
You don't have to follow. You are one of the most prolific contributors that are out there, regardless of discipline. So your value is unquestionable. So greatly appreciate what you do. And so full disclosure. David and I are friends. We're partners. The way this evolved is I have been doing a conference in this domain for 12 plus years. In fact, it can go back to 2005, where I was first involved in organizing a conference on this front, and also involved with peer groups. And David joined the conference, I believe, in 2017, about 4 or 5 years ago. David?
I don't. Indeed. He was attending 2016. So, you got me on board a year later.
There we go. And, we've been at it ever since. And since then, after IBM, we became partners with Insight 222. So as I start this morning, just know that, was that English that I just said? Start this morning. David and I have been working together. That being said, have a very strong commitment to the ethos that you'll hear about over not only the next hour, but over the next 2 days and ongoing. That's this notion of people, data for good, advocating for the responsible, ethical, and virtuous use of people, data, and analytics. So in other words, while we're trying to drive certainly business commercial value, we also have to honor the human experience. And so, with that, David, I'll give you a couple minutes for closing comments, and then I'll get started.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. The ethics part, for me, is the most important part of people analytics. We can't afford, as practitioners, we have a responsibility to make sure that we are using people data ethically. It's almost that the people analytics teams are the custodians of that in many respects, because ultimately they're the ones that perform the analysis. So I know something that we created at Insight 222 when we got started back in 2017. We got started, but the first co-creation we did with some of our clients was to help co-create an ethics charter. And that was about the fair and responsible use of people analytics. And I know several of those organizations have now taken that, iterated that, and created an ethics charter. And that's certainly something that we advocate, and I advocate. I think it's very important that we do that. And I think there's always that, two things. Number one, would you want anything that you're doing from a people analytics perspective getting in the New York Times? And if the answer is no, you might want to think again. Could I have a conversation in the canteen with an employee about some of the work that we're doing? And if the answer is no, and if you can't articulate what the benefit is to employees, then maybe it's time to think again. So I know it's something that we both are passionate about, and I guess that's why we have the tagline "People Data for Good" for this conference series.
That's right. Well, David, again, thank you for all you do, and Yeah, we'll talk probably in about 30 minutes here because what I'm going to do is fire through this. And just so everyone knows before we start formally, is that we've asked all the speakers to present for if it's a 50-minute session, for about 30, 35 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, and leave time for Q&A. So again, I encourage you to engage with us on Slido. It's on the website. It's on the YouTube channel. So start to dialogue, ask questions. David will curate those and ask me towards the end, or he'll certainly ask his own. And that's going to be for all the presenters today. We're actually going to have a little extra time with Josh Burson. He usually presents for an hour. We'll have some Q&A with him as well. So again, I encourage you to do that. So with that, we'll jump in. Sound good?
Yes,
Here we
sounds good.
go.
Good luck now.